All right, guys, season 4 is just around the corner. It is 4 days away at the time of recording this video, and today we need to talk about what character you are going to be pulling for. Are you going to be pulling for the new Halloween Charmy, or are you going to be pulling for the new Halloween Noelle? Technically, now on Global, they're called Costume Party Charmy and Costume Party Noelle. They are actually both really good in their own right. Charmy is still S tier in PvP right now on KR and JP, even though they're in later seasons, and she is still A in PvE. Noelle, on the other hand, is S for both. So they're both really good characters, and ideally you want to get them both because they do very different things. Charmy is an attacker, Noelle is a debuffer, and a crazy one at that. But overall, I think Noelle is just going to have a leg up, but let's go ahead and get into these kits. So for Charmy, her primary skill 1, is called Pumpkin Launch, and it's going to inflict burn on an enemy, guaranteed, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns. Okay, so that's nice. Just a little bit of extra damage on top of her normal attack there. Her second skill, Trick or Treat, is an AoE. If an enemy is under the Pumpkin Pie effect, applies Halloween Firecrackers to them. Halloween Firecrackers instantly activates the Pumpkin Pie effect and then removes it. So typically with her ult, which gives you the Pumpkin Pie effect, you have to wait 5 turns. Using skill 2 after the ultimate allows you to remove it sooner. Okay, so what does her special do? Charmy's special suit. It applies the Pumpkin Pie effect to an enemy, and what this effect is when 5 turns pass after applying this effect, inflicts 600% of attack and magic attack as damage dealt, and then removes it. So the Pumpkin Pie goes away after doing 600% damage. This Charmy will do some insane damage numbers. It's actually insane. After applying it at the start of every turn, increase damage dealt by the Pumpkin Pie. If an enemy under this effect starts their turn, transfer the Pumpkin Pie effect to a random teammate on their side. So basically, you want to apply the Pumpkin Pie effect on whichever enemy has the highest mobility. Then they will go, and as soon as they go, they transfer it onto the next person. Hopefully it goes on the next person with the next highest mobility, then they go and they transfer it onto the next person. And each time it gets transferred, that increases the stacks of the Pumpkin Pie on the enemy. And at 5 stacks, after 5 turns in other words, you are going to do 600% damage to the enemy, which is actually just insane. And then it also inflicts continuous burn damage on the enemy to whom Pumpkin Pie has been transferred for 2 turns. If an enemy is under the Pumpkin Pie effect, inflict burn on them for 2 turns. Okay, so pretty crazy special overall. And then for her combined attack, it attacks after removing a barrier on top of all that. So if the rest of that wasn't good enough for you, she can also remove barriers. Very, very, very good overall. For the LR passive, at 2 copies, when Pumpkin Pie is removed, apply 2 burn stacks to all enemies for 2 turns, so even more damage. And then at 5 copies, when Pumpkin Pie is removed, apply 2 burn stacks to all enemies for 2 turns, just like before. And then additionally, at the start of the turn, apply burn to a random enemy for 2 turns. Okay, so not the craziest passives. I don't think they're necessary per se, but if you want a little bit of extra damage, it's pretty good. And then for her unique passive, when HP is below 30%, grants a immortality buff for 1 turn. So she can hit really hard, and she does AoE damage, she can do single target damage, she does burns, and she has immortality, and she has remove barrier. You cannot tell me that this Charmy is not goated. She's actually really, really good. Let's take a look at her skill card. So here is Charmy's skill card. It is called Pumpkin Feast. And what this does is when attacking a target afflicted with burn, there is a 10 to 100% chance to recover 20 to 100% of your maximum health. So if you get this fully duped out, you could have a 100% chance to recover 100% of your maximum health when attacking an opponent who is burnt. That's kind of crazy. That's really good. Now, not duped out, a 10% chance to recover 20% health isn't super crazy. You might almost want like a different attacker skill card on her that's going to give her more damage. Okay, that might be the better way to go. But if you're able to fully dupe this out, it's kind of crazy. Okay. Additionally, you get this effect on skill 1 if the enemy is under the Pumpkin Pie effect, inflict stun status element on them for 1 turn. That's pretty dang good. So if you attack someone who has the Pumpkin Pie stack on them, that's crazy. So right there, that alone would make me probably run her skill card over other damage skill cards. But like I said, if you're just trying to build damage, you could go for a damage skill card. But overall, like, I think this is just insanely good. Having that stun on top of everything else she has, it's kind of crazy. So Charmy, honestly, as an attacker, I really, really like her build. I like her kit. and I think she's very good. And I will be doing a build guide for how to gear her and do talent trees and stuff like that later after I pull her. I like to do it on the global side of the game. I could do it on the JP, but I want you guys to be able to like read and see what I'm doing. So that's why I wait until after the characters actually launch on global before doing a build guide for the characters. So you'll probably never see a build guide from me before a banner actually drops on global. With that said, let's take a look at Noelle. So as I was saying before, Noelle is S in both PvP and PvE, actually S plus in PvP. She is insanely good as a debuffer. And if we scroll down here, you'll see why. She's just insane. So her skill 1 is called Water Prank. It inflicts extend debuff duration by 1 turn on an enemy. That would be good enough all by itself for a skill 1, right? That's insane. But then they had to take it a step further and they did inflicts SP or special points -1 on an enemy, meaning they can't use their special if you go first. Or if you're just taking away special points, it delays their special. So it's really, really good. So delaying special and extending debuffs. Kind of nuts, but it just gets better from there. That's skill 1. That is a single target attack, like typically the weakest attack in your kit, right? For skill 2, it is another single target attack. It's called Little Devil's Prank, and this one inflicts magic attack reduction level 3 on the enemy for 2 turns, so they won't hit as hard. Julius specifically, that is really good against. Inflicts taunt on the enemy for 2 turns. Also pretty good. And then inflicts SP -1 on all enemies. That part right there is pretty freaking crazy. So all of that, very, very good. Are you seeing why she's good now? Like, I don't even have to explain that. You should know that taunt's insane, SP -1 is insane, and magic attack reduction, all insane. Insane abilities. Her special skill is called Trick Water, and it summons a giant water drop in the shape of a pumpkin. It inflicts SP -3 on an enemy, which is just crazy, man. It just gets better with each skill we go. And then removes all buffs from an enemy, and then inflicts weapon disarm level 3 on an enemy for 2 turns. Bro, it's so good. It's so good. If you don't know what weapon disarm is, it reduces the damage done by 34%. So they'll do 34% less damage. So overall, that's very, very solid and very good. And then her combined attack also, just like Charmy, removes barriers, which is nice. As for her enhanced passives, at LR +2, at the start of a wave, inflicts a 30% increased damage taken debuff on all enemies. Like, that's insane. Yeah, you definitely want to get at least 2 dupes into her for that. That's really, really good. So, like, when you're looking at the LR passives for having enhancement, Charmy's looks kind of shabby compared to Noelle's right here. Charmy's still a very good character, but this passive is just freaking insane. 30% increased damage taken on all enemies. It's really good. And then at LR +5, meaning you have 5 copies, at the start of a wave, inflicts a 30% increased damage taken debuff on all enemies like before. And then additionally, when attacked, removes continuous HP recovery from all enemies. That's crazy. There's just so much that, what doesn't this Noelle do? She does everything. She's crazy, right? And then for the unique passive, at the start of a battle, inflicts a 40% reduced damage dealt debuff on attacker class enemies for 1 turn. So you can reduce attacker enemies damage like Julius, and then you could also lower their magic attack, and you can also disarm them, just making them hit for like nothing. On top of that, you're removing their buffs and their SP, so they can't even use their special skills. You're just shutting down a whole team single-handedly with this Noelle. Noelle is actually just freaking insane. But let's go ahead and take a look at her skill card. Noelle's skill card is called a Little Halloween Devil, and upon taking damage, there is a 20 to 100% chance to inflict a SP -1 debuff on all enemies, as if she wasn't doing enough. If you want to just really be troll and get this like fully enhanced, you're guaranteed to remove an SP -1 every time one of the enemies attacks. That's kind of crazy. That's really, really good. And then if we go down here and look at the skill 2 also gets enhanced with this skill card, and it inflicts block HP recovery on an enemy for 2 turns, in addition to all the other random stuff that happens here. Like, it's just, there's so much. There's too much. There's honestly too much. This Noelle, insanely, insanely good. So if you guys were to ask me, out of the 2 characters, who should you pull for, or who should you use your key on, more specifically for Season 4 of Global, I highly recommend using your key on Noelle, because Noelle is honestly just crazy. She's really, really good. Like, while Charmy, I think, is good too. Like, she's a solid attacker. I don't think you're going to be able to ever compete with just how much utility Noelle has. She has some of the best utility in the game, whether it goes for PvE or PvP, right? So that's my advice to you guys. When Season 4 banner does come out, I recommend going for Noelle on the gateway. And then I would also actually probably recommend potentially maybe even skipping the banner, because this comes out on the 6th, and then on the 12th we have Black Asta. So you got to keep that in mind. If you want Black Asta, don't go all in on this banner. Use your key to get Noelle. And then if you get Black Asta, I think the banner will still be around. You can go back and try to get Charmy if you want. But yeah, that's my advice to you guys. If you guys enjoyed this video going over their kits, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and leave me some comments about what you think about these two characters. Which one do you like more? Which one are you going to be pulling for? Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.